I can't believe they ruined the Komi dub. But before we get started, who's they exactly? Well, Komi is licensed by Netflix, the dubbing studio is produced by PSI Los Angeles, and it's directed by Michael Sorich. So, do I blame Netflix for having the rights to Komi? Do I blame the people behind the studio? Or do I blame the director for directing it in the first place? Well, who cares about any of that? I know a lot of people like to divert the conversation and say how bad insert company ruins insert thing. If you've seen YMS's Lion King video, you know what I mean. John! Well, it could be pretty funny sometimes. It sort of comes off as cruel, you know? To take out all my anger out on just one person feels very irresponsible to me. John. The sort of thing is kind of prevalent in the dubbing community, and that just ain't my style, chief. I'm someone who reviews material based on its own merits, and I'm gonna keep it that way. So originally I wanted to talk about the casting and the narrator, but I want to talk about the most important change in the dub. But first, I have to explain what Komi is. God dang it. Komi is a girl with hyper social anxiety. The only way she can communicate with others is to write it out on a notebook and have them read it. In the Japanese dub, it's never read aloud. However, in the English dub, whoever is reading it says it out loud. I honestly think that is a really good idea. It fills the void of awkwardness as it sounds like there is a real conversation going on. I feel like this idea was so simple that literally anyone could have come up with it and not necessarily the director. Yeah, that was what the intro was about, you guys. However, I think the execution of this whole note reading thing was butchered in the most pathetic way possible. Firstly, I believe that Komi should be the one reading everything aloud and not necessarily the reader. It's a big change, yeah, but hear me out. This doesn't actually feel like a real conversation at all. It feels like whoever is reading her notes is just talking to themselves. The worst instance of the notes is the very first scene it's introduced in. It was fine at first, but then it kept going. Because Tadano had to read to himself so much, I thought, why didn't they just let Komi read the lines? Not only would it give her character actual character, it gives her a presence in the conversation. I understand the notes are used as an excuse for her to not talk, and it's not voiced in Japanese because it actually portrays someone reading the note. But since someone else is saying it in the first place, it doesn't make any sense why she's not reading it herself. Komi essentially gets around her anxiety through her notebook, and little by little, she starts to break out of her shell through talking to more people and making new friends. Because of her good looks and perfectness, she is regarded as a goddess, and that makes it harder for her to truly interact with anyone. They see her as an idol and lay out the red carpet for her, and she really hates that. So by letting her speak, it would feel like she gains some independence from her peers and lets her become her own character. But what this dub essentially did was take a step back and let everyone say all the words for her, which is not what Komi's about. Komi could have been a character that actually talks to her friends, but what we got was her friends talking to her mirror. Secondly, there's more wrong with this, I'm sorry. Secondly is the inconsistency. Let's go back to the first chalkboard scene. Right when Komi was about to leave, Tadano writes on the chalkboard to talk to Komi. Doing this, he bridges the gap in the relationship. He makes her feel more comfortable talking with chalk, and he gives Komi the first real conversation she's ever had with anyone. Except Tadano reads everything for some reason, even his own writing. Why? This was the most basic thing they could have done. When Tadano started reading her writing, I, the viewer, immediately realized that Komi was going to finally speak by reading his writing. They were building up for this moment using such a simple setup, and surprised to say, I felt very disappointed when I didn't hear Komi say anything.
Thanks for today. It was fun.
I guess they're saving her voice for later, you know, when she diegetically says something.
I also like just being alone with you.
Thirdly, the acting. Whenever someone reads Komi's notes, it's always read in the most plain way possible. Which, I mean, if you think about it, does make sense. I don't think anyone would be excited to read the word no, but it gets kind of annoying to listen to in huge chunks, especially during the, you guessed it. Another thing about this is when characters are portraying certain actions that would require them to read the words differently. When Tadano tries to run off, Komi writes on the chalkboard to stay. He reads it and he says it in the most bored manner possible. He could have read it any way else, like embarrassed, out of breath, confused, but no. Please don't go, Tadano said calmly. Crucial moments feel ruined because they're said with the same inflection as every other sentence. Now, I'm guessing the acting being stiff is due to not receiving good direction from the director, Michael Sorich. But who cares about that? I got nothing against you, man. You casted Gumball into the show, and I cannot be more proud. I think the best example of this whole note reading thing is in a different show, Rick and Morty. Jerry quickly writes a letter to Morty, and Jerry says it very hastily. I can see him pissing himself writing that note because he says it that way. It was a funny gag because he executed it in a very clear way. Do I need to elaborate? Fourthly, the music. Now, because the Japanese dub doesn't have any voiceovers, they replaced the silence with music, which gets very muddied with the English dub. Now, I've been ragging on this scene a lot, but it was actually done way worse in the scene in episode 4. But I feel like I'm in a better mood, so I'm going to talk about the narrator for a bit. The narrator has way more lines now, and I don't like that. And the worst inclusion of the narrator was in episode, whatever. I just have whatever. Yadano is competing with Komi, and is very obviously losing. You can hear her scream in pain trying to keep up, and the music is just blaring. It really adds intensity to the scene, which makes it sound sort of close when it's not. It's really funny. Let's see what the narrator has to say.
Grip strength. Komi wins. Seated forward fold. Komi wins. Sidestep. Komi wins. Sit-ups. Komi wins.
You know, I think what made this dub so bad was it had potential. It could have been a very unique dub, something that you had to watch because it made a very bold decision that changes how you view the show. Instead, it's something you should avoid because it took away Komi's personality. Not just the character, but the entire show itself. What they did, the creators of the dub, was make something lesser than the sum of its parts, and I cannot be even more disappointed.